Alright, so I've already tried to record this once, file corrupted, so let's try this again. So today I figured I'm procrastinating, don't have anything else to do, might as well film a walk around video talking about some of the stuff that I've done to my 2013 FR-S. So I've owned this car since it had 23 miles on it. It currently has about 79,800-ish, 900-ish miles on it. I've done a lot to it. I've been through just about everything in this car. So I'm gonna go over kind of the main mods I've done, some of the kind of things I've learned over 5 years of owning an 8.6, and some of the cool things that I think other owners should know and should do to their cars. So here we go. So I'm gonna start off with the exterior. So most of the stuff I've done on the exterior of this car is eBay, truthfully. I'm in college. I really don't have the funds to be able to be super ultra legit, or I do and should spend another, whatever. Anyway, this is kind of proof that you can do a mostly eBay build, at least visually, and have your car look pretty decent. So I'm going to start off, the newest thing I've done is this Modelista style body kit. I don't have the rear spats on, but I've been wanting one of these kits for so long, and I finally got one, and it looks amazing. I love it because it follows the body lines really well. Let's see if I can get a good shot of that. Follows the body lines really well. I don't have the rear spats on, but I'm working on it. Next, as far as visual stuff goes, RPF ones. These are 17x9 plus 35 RPF ones. I have a 25mm spacer on the front because of the angle mods. I'll get into some of the suspension stuff a little later, but with the 25mm spacer and -3 degrees of camber, these things fit just about perfectly in the front. I need to go lower, but that's for another time. Now, I usually run all four of these, and I have two 15, 45, 17 Zestino Grej 07Rs on the RPF ones. Now, right now, because I just came back from a drift event and I'm super lazy, right now I have ESRs on the back, but you wouldn't know it, would you? If I stand about back here, there is basically no way to tell the difference between these two wheels. However, these ESRs that are on the back, these are 17x9 plus 30, so a 5mm offset difference. But the biggest thing is, they're $500 cheaper. This set was $600 shipped, and you can get them now for even cheaper than that. And I have two 15, 45, 17s in the back also. So it's a good option, especially if you drift an RPF ones like a lot of people do, if you want to save some money on your wheels. Next, I have a couple other things on the side of the car. These are just eBay window visors. I don't know, I like them. They do drip water on the interior when it is actually wet outside, so they don't work that well. They look cool though. I have the HIC roof spoiler, which is actually not just plastic, it's like somewhat see-through, which is interesting. Anyway, moving back here, my headlights, I've painted them red twice now, and now twice they faded to kind of like a rose color. You can see I have a seal issue in there with all the dust and crap. Other than that, I have a TRD style spoiler. Here. I have a TRD style spoiler. I paid $50 for this. You can find them that cheap pretty much anywhere. Fits okay, looks good. I like it. And then down here, I have, ignore this, hold up. There. All right. So down here, I have the $50 eBay splitter, and then I have a Surikawa because JDM. Then also you can see the Tome 880 right here. But that's more or less it as far as visual stuff. This car's gone through a couple different changes. I had a bunch of stickers on it at one point. Down here you can see big ol', or not really big, intercooler. Side note, on the SBD turbo kits, the intercooler is offset, as you can see here. So most people don't notice it, but it annoys me. There's apparently ways to fix it that I'm not gonna do. Next I'm gonna go into the interior. So my interior is a mess right now, I'm sorry. But my interior is mostly stock. So Mishimoto shift knob. I'm actually growing to like these taller shift knobs. It makes a 2-3 shift really easy, and that's really, excuse me, that's really important, especially for kind of how this car is geared. And with the turbo kit, I need to be able to just throw it in the third, because I usually have to do it during a transition. Shut up. Other than that, except for some gold accents, car is more or less stock. Here you can see my open flash tablet. I actually have it velcroed. See, you can see here, it's overexposing everything. But you can see I have it velcroed here. This is kind of a temporary solution. It's annoying. It works most of the time, but it's kind of hard to see, and it falls off and hits me in the knee, which is really annoying. One thing I want to cover is the drift button itself right here. So I've had a lot of people ask me about this. So I don't have a hydro or anything. This is the stock e-brake right here. With the drift button, what happens is when you take out the spring, I can just rip this all day and it doesn't really matter. When I want to set the parking brake, I just pull it up, push this out, and it stays. So that's what's nice about the drift button. That's the point of them being flared out like this. Hold on, focus. There we go. That's the point of it being flared out right there. But if you don't know, now you know. Really, other than that, interiors, I haven't even unpacked from freaking IFO. So interior is pretty dirty. But back here, ignore the table. I have the back seats out. I have the back of the back seat out. My trunk's pretty open. I'll flip this. So personally for me, I like having basically no interior in the back, because for most of these events, I'm driving to the event. So if I need to fit 4 or 6 wheels and tires in this car, a jack, my toolbox, anything else I'm bringing, I need as much space in the rear as possible. So that's why I have the rear of my car pulled out. Ironically, if you take the rear seats out, there's actually more room for passengers. It's actually a little bit more comfortable to sit back there. But then again, the rear of this car is meant for like small children or double amputees. I don't know. It's not meant for real people. Other than that, that's pretty much it on the interior. Over here you can see my nice Surikawa. I custom ordered this from JDM Surikawa. You can find them on Instagram. This is extremely nice quality. I got this because I was tired of people at drift events. They would have their hand out the window, which number one's not allowed, and they'd be pulling on my window visors. So that's part of the reason I got the Surikawa, is to fix that. But other than that, that's pretty much it for my interior. I mean, I'm using the stock seats, stock seat belts, stock steering wheel, stock pedal. Like, I don't know what else I can even say is modified in this interior, really. These cars have great interiors. It's one of my favorite parts, one of the reasons I originally bought one. So really for me, I mean, there really isn't much that I'd want to modify. I see no reason to go to a different seat until I have this car caged and I'm trying to like go super competitive with everything. So next I'm gonna go to the engine bay and kind of show you what my engine setup is and kind of what I've done over the few years I've owned the car. So here you can see the reason my car makes cool noises. So this, let me put the hood prop on. All right, there we go. So this is my FA20. It's my second FA20. Pro tip to everyone who owns one of these cars: don't try and do top speed runs when it's 95 degrees outside and you don't have an oil cooler. if you own an FRS or BRZ and you're doing track events, or you're drifting, or you even just drive the crap out of it like an idiot on the street, get an oil cooler. That is what would have saved my first motor, and it's cheap, and it's just insurance. If you use a OBD2 monitor to monitor your temps, you'll see how fast oil temps spike. But anyway, here's my engine. This is my second FA20. This engine has about 45,000 miles on it. This is the SBD turbo kit. This is the 350X, I believe. I actually bought this kit from another 8.6 owner down in Springfield. His name's Dustin Smith. He has this crazy LS3 wide body FR-S. It's freaking sweet. But he used to run this kit. He windowed his block at 14 PSI on E85. So that's part of why I'm not upgrading my engine. But the setup's pretty simple. It's a pretty okay sized turbo actually. But here you can see my oil cooler. This is actually what caused my day to end early at IFO, is these fittings right here were leaking. So that's what was causing my massive oil leak, I believe. You can still see some oil stuck in there. But other than that, pretty much stock. I mean, stock radiator, stock fans. I have a catch can. That's about it as far as other modifications. Down here, you can see my not permanent mounting solution for the oil cooler. I just have it mounted between those two bolts there. Then intercooler right here. But pretty simple, pretty straightforward, gets the job done. So for exhaust, I'm using the stock overpipe because the overpipe really doesn't matter. I have I believe it's a Perrin 2.5-inch catless front pipe into a Touge 80R catback. The Touge 80R catback is one of the best exhausts there is for this car. I think it looks great. I mean, I love the look of single exits. I mean, people ask me like, why don't you have a dual exhaust? You have two holes. Well, screw you. I like to look at the single exhaust. Sounds amazing, looks good. The only issue with it is the pipe is very low going under the differential, so it gets smashed really easily. You can ask anyone who's had one of these Touge 80s. Next, I'm going to talk about suspension. So here you can see my really dirty, gross top hats. These are the Teen Flexi coilovers. You can actually see it right here. See? Flexi. These are decent coilovers. You'd still consider them in the budget category. They're 6 kilogram per centimeter or millimeter, whatever. So they're 6K front, 6K rear. I'd like a stiffer spring in the front. The rear is good. The rear has plenty of squat. It feels great, especially for drifting. The front, I'd like to be a little stiffer, just so under transitions, the front stays a little more stable. But other than that, feels good. I can't really get a good shot of it in here, but I'm gonna try. So a couple of the angle mods I've done here, I'll just flip it around because I'm gonna be talking to the camera for the rest of this anyway. So as far as angle mods, one of the first and most important things I've done, and I recommend this to anyone who's trying to drift their FR-S or BRZ, is the Megan space inner tie rods. So what those do is they have a little built-in spacer right on the thread part of the inner tie rod that goes into your steering rack. And what that allows to do is it allows the tie rod to go further into the steering rack, which gives you a little bit extra steering angle. So on an FR-S, that equates to about an extra eighth of a turn of the wheel. And on these cars, that is a huge, huge difference over stock steering angle. I recommend it to most people. They're super cheap. I've had mine in for 2 years now, and one of my tie rods is starting to get a bit loose. I have some new ones that are actually from Drift Knuckles that are extended. The next kind of big angle thing I've done is I actually got my knuckles cut and modified by Nocturnal Motor Works up in St. Charles, Missouri. So what that does is it takes a steering arm and takes it from about here to about here. So shortening that steering arm makes the steering a lot quicker, and allows the wheel to turn a lot more with the same amount of steering input. So that's actually completely changed how this car drives and how this car drifts. I love it personally. It makes the steering a lot heavier, which I like. Some people might not like it, but especially for cars that it takes a decent amount of turns lock to lock, it makes a huge difference when you're doing back roading, track days, or especially drifting. The biggest issue I've run into with it so far is steering bind. So whenever the steering gets loaded up or at a weird angle, my steering will almost lock to where I just have to muscle it over to get it out of wherever it's locked at. This can be dangerous. It caused me to spin out a couple times. Well, I caused me to spin out, but the steering binding caused me to spin out a couple times at IFO. And so really the only real ways to fix it are expensive. So it's something that I'm working on. It's something that I really want to get fixed during the course of this year. That way I don't really have to worry about it, because I feel like my driving's at a point where if I can trust my car 99% of the time, I'll be good. I can feel like I can drive most courses, drive with most people. So other than that, as far as suspension stuff goes, I do have a couple of polyurethane mounts. One of the biggest ones, which I guess is more drivetrain related, is my solid transmission mount, or polyurethane transmission mount, sorry. I have the white line mount, which is a little bit expensive. There are cheaper ones, but you just put it in. There's a little weirdly shaped space in the transmission bushing. You just put it in there, put the bolt back in, and it keeps your shifter from moving back and forth when you're on and off throttle. If you own one of these cars, or if you've owned a rear-wheel drive car that has soft motor mounts, you've seen your shifter move back and forth when you're getting on and off throttle. This bushing completely gets rid of that. And so I recommend it to most people because it's another super cheap modification that makes a pretty big difference on how the car drives. Like I don't even notice it anymore until I get into a stock FR-S BRZ or BRZ and see what their shifter looks like. Other than that, for alignment stuff in the rear, one of the biggest things when you lower these cars, especially with coilovers, when you're lowering more than an inch, my car is probably lowered about, I'd say like an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches from stock. It's hard to tell, honestly. My car feels like a monster truck to me, but compared to a stock car, it's hard to tell. But in the rear, I have SPC lower control arms and tow arms. And so what that allows you to do is to bring your rear camber into where you want it and adjust your rear toe. Because when you lower these cars, the rear toe goes way out and you get a lot of rear camber. So you'll see a lot of guys who lower these cars and don't put on those rear arms, and bees flying everywhere, who lower these cars and then end up just burning through rear tires like none other, like they've just been doing burnouts everywhere, just because of the fact that their rear alignment is just way off. So it's real. You end up spending less than $400 or $500 total, and it's completely worth it just because you'll save that in tires over the first year. Really, other than that, I mean, that's pretty much the car. Like I said, I've owned this car for 5 years. I've been through a lot with it, especially with starting to drift this car in 2016. I mean, it's no longer my daily. It's no longer the car I just hop in and like go to the grocery store or whatever. I have the town car now, and I mean, oh, that thing's great. But I'm slowly bringing this car kind of back to where I want it. I'm slowly getting it to the point of where I'm really happy with how the car looks and how the car, I think, represents me and kind of my style. And that's really my biggest goal and that's always been my goal with this car, is to kind of have this car represent who I am as a person and make it kind of an extension of myself. So other than that, that's it. I'm going to be trying to post more and more on the Touge Culture YouTube. We started it and we haven't been as active as we want to be. So I'm going to really try and be pushing some content out there. If anyone has any questions about the setup on my car or what I've done that works, doesn't work, my experience with different things, I've been around these cars and around different clubs for 5 years now. I've seen people do just about everything there is to do and not do on these cars. So if you have any questions, comment below, message me, whatever. I love helping people out. I want people to not make some of the same mistakes I did. So other than that, make sure to follow Touge Culture on all of our social medias, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Well, you're already here on YouTube, so you might as well subscribe, right? Other than that, expect to see our IFO coverage out soon. I've been really slow on the vlogs. I'm still working on my process of actually downloading all the videos and really kind of making that process a lot more streamlined. It's all part of the learning process, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna get a video out. I stopped filming whenever I actually started having issues with the car, but I'll film a little outro talking about kind of why my day got cut short. And other than that, have a nice day and take it easy.